Jaya Janava Jaya Giridhari Yasodanandana Braja Chandaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Chandaranjana Nayamanakirana Charina Amanakirana Charina Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Hare Krishna Balaram Navagira Shri Shri Gonitai Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaura Prem. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chanting from Srimad Bhagavatam. Canto 3, Chapter 18. What text is it? 25. Naya Vadesha Vadita Samvilam Prapya Durunaha Samdevam Mayamastaya Tavajahi Agam Achuta Nayavadesha Vadita Samvilam Prapya Duruna Samdeva Mayamastaya Tavajahi Agam Achuta Nayavadesha Vadina Ita Samvilam Prapya Duruna Samdeva Mayamastaya Devajaya Kamachuta. Someone else? Ladies. Na Yavat, before Isha, this demon, Vadita, may increase Swam, his own, Velam, demoniac hour, Prapya, having reached Runaha, formidable, Swam, your own, Deva, O Lord, Mayam, internal potency, Ashtaya, using Tavat, at once, Jahi, kill, Agam, the sinful one, Achuta, O infallible one. Translation. Brahma continued, my dear Lord, you are infallible. Please kill this demoniac demon before the demoniac hour arrives. And he presents another formidable approach favorable to him. You can kill him by your internal potency without doubt. Let's go to the next verse. My Lord, the darkest evening, which covers the world, is fast approaching. Since you are the soul of all souls, kindly kill him and win victory for the demigods. The next verse, 27. The auspicious period known as Abhijit, which is most opportune for victory, commenced at midday and has all but passed. Therefore, in the interest of your friends, please dispose of this formidable foe quickly. Text 28. This demon, luckily for us, has come of his own accord to you. His death, ordained by you, therefore exhibiting your ways, kill him in the duel and establish the world in peace. I'm just going to the next chapter, chapter 19. The killing of the demon Hiranyaksha. Text 1. Matra vacha adaraya virinchasya nirvalikam ritam vacha prahasya premagavena tatpavagena no prahit. Sri Maitreya said, after hearing the words of Brahma, the Creator, which were free from all sinful purposes and as sweet as nectar, the Lord heartily laughed and accepted his prayer with a glance laden with love. The word Niyalika is very significant. The prayers of the demigods or devotees of the Lord are free from all sinful purposes, but the prayers of demons are always filled with sinful purposes. The demon Hiranyaksha became powerful by deriving a boon from Brahma, and after attaining the boon, he created a disturbance because of his sinful intentions. The prayers of Brahma and other demigods are not to be compared to the prayers of the demons. Their purpose is to please the Supreme Lord. Therefore the Lord smiled and accepted the prayer to kill the demon. Demons who are never interested in praising the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they have no information of him go to the demigods and pray for advancement in sinful activities and are considered to be bereft of all intelligence. Demons have lost all intelligence because they do not know what is actually their self-interest. Even if they have information of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they decline to approach him. It is not possible for them to get their desired boons from the Supreme Lord because their purposes are always sinful. It is said that the dacoits of Bengal used to worship the goddess Kali for fulfillment of their sinful desires to plunder others' property. But they never went to a Vishnu temple because they might have been unsuccessful in praying to Vishnu. Both the prayers of the demigods or the devotees of the Supreme Lord are always untinged by sinful purposes. So we're continuing this pastime of the Lord in his four incarnation, Varaha. Actually, there's another verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam where Srila Prabhupada, he mentions that we should understand that although the Lord appears in various species, animal species, he is not an animal. He's not a man, he's not a boar, he's not a fish, he's not a tortoise. He's not a lion, he's the eternal Supreme Lord in all circumstances. Yes. So we're just going through this story. It's a very amazing story. I mean, we're getting up to this part where Hiranyaksha is about to accept his defeat. You know, we saw that, Varaha, he was flying through the sky, slashing his tail, his hairs were quivering, his very glance was luminous as he scattered the clouds in the sky with his hooves. with his glittering white tusks. Amazing descriptions in the Bhagavatam. And then he was searching for the lost earth that had sunken down in the bottom of the Garbha ocean by smell. Then suddenly, as he was flying through the sky, suddenly he just dived into the middle of that Garbhodak ocean, causing these two high waves to appear. Yes. Then he penetrated into the waters with his hooves, which acted like sharp arrows. He found the limits of that unlimited ocean. Then he saw the earth lying on the bottom of the ocean, and he personally lifted it up with his tusks, got it out of the water. Well, what happened then? As soon as he got it out of the water, the demon, Hiranyaksha, appeared. He saw Varaha, the Supreme Lord, with the earth on his tusks, carrying the earth. And what did he do? He laughed. And Hiranyaksha had got all these powers from the demigods, from Lord Brahma. He was tearing around the universe, tyrannizing everyone. He became like the big bully of the universe. Sometimes you get the big bullies at school, or you get the big bullies. He became the big bully of the universe, going around challenging everyone, beating everyone up. So he saw Varaha, and just like a big bully, he starts speaking out, Oh, amphibious beast, this earth is entrusted to us demigods. You cannot take it without being hurt by me. When you fall dead with your skull smashed by my club, the demigods and the sages who offer you worship, they'll also be finished. And pretty tough talk. The big bully of the universe. Because it said that, when the Lord heard these words, he was pained by these abusive words. He just wanted to get him right then and there. But he bore the pain. Seeing the earth on the end of his tusks were frightened by this horrible Hiranyaksha. So he rose out of the water, he bore the pain, he rose out of the water, he moved swiftly away with the earth on his tusks. And then, of course, Hiranyaksha, the demon, he was roaring like thunder, chasing after the Lord, shouting, "You shameless coward, for not meeting my challenge. Shameless." So the Lord, the Lord was just, at the time, he was bearing all this pain, all these abusive words. And he placed the earth within his sight, made her float on the water. Then he turned to Hiranyaksha and he expressed his terrible anger. It said he looked at Hiranyaksha so furiously that the demon was momentarily terrified just by that glance of Varaha. Then Varaha began rebuking the demon, very strong words. And the demon, he said he was trembling like a challenged cobra. When a cobra snake gets cornered or something, they become really angry, And then it said, and suddenly, he was hissing like a trampled snake. And his senses were just shaken with wrath. And he attacked the Lord, went to strike him with his powerful mace. But the Lord, he just slightly moved, dodged the mace. As I said, the Lord's transcendental anger was just glowing like a Sudarshan disc. as he rushed to meet the demon with his own mace. And soon, of course, this terrible battle took place. And the Lord and the demon were just enraged, just both seeking victory, ready to fight to the death. And it said they fought very passionately. Of course, it mentions that Lord Varaha, he especially fought very brutally and cleverly. The Lord he outmatched Hiranyaksha by his fighting prowess. And Lord Varaha was very expertly weaving inside and outside Hiranyaksha's defenses, causing the demon to become even tremble with more and more anger. He was becoming more and more enraged because he was trying to kill the Lord, but the Lord was just weaving his way in and out his defense with his defenses. And of course, it mentions also, Maharaj was mentioning that as each of them, they became more and more enraged with the smell of blood running from their injuries on their bodies. They said they fought like two angry bulls. Actually, it is mentioned that this killing of varieties of demons are actually pleasure excursions for the Lord. The Lord performed he performs these pastimes for the pleasure of his devotees. If you're looking, everyone loves the hero of the story. So Krishna, he's always comes out as the great hero, conquering the demons. So good over the evil. Yes. And because, the Lord, he's the source, because he's the source of everything, anger and fighting are also inherent in his personalities. Just like we see today in the world. Like this jiu-jitsu. These jiu-jitsu schools are just opening up everywhere. People like to fight. Martial arts schools. There's gang warfares going on in all the different cities of the world. So where does this fighting propensity come from? It comes from the Lord. Everything, he is the source of everything, because we see that in ourselves, in the human race. Krishna also is becoming, because he also has this fighting propensity. So, and of course, when he desires a good fight, sometimes he has to find an enemy to fight with, right? You want a good fight, you want to find a good enemy to fight with, someone who's some kind of match. And of course, in the spiritual world, in Vaikuntha, there's no enemies, they're all devotees. Therefore, sometimes he comes to the material world as an incarnation in order to fight to manifest his fighting spirit. Actually, in Krishna pastimes in Vrindavan, they said that Krishna used to kill 2 or 3 demons before lunch. They were just pleasure excursions for him. He enjoyed it. So we see that this Hiranyaksha, even though he's a big demon, he's taken this 3 births as a demon, he's actually a very dear devotee of the Lord, a personal doorkeeper of Vaikuntha, who has taken his first birth as this demon, and he's fighting with the Lord in the form of this boar. And this, one of the amazing things, which is very amazing, is that during the fighting, because this Hiranyaksha is the Lord's dear devotee in reality, So sometimes, while the fighting was going on, Lord Varaha would be looking at Hiranyaksha very sternly, like he's about to kill him, right? But sometimes he would be looking at him very lovingly. And this completely bewildered his enemy, Hiranyaksha. Sometimes he's looking at him like, very ferociously, and sometimes he's looking at him very lovingly. It's like the demon was bewildered. What's going on? It's because... But as we see here, after some time, Lord Brahma, accompanied by his swallows, they come to see the battle. And Brahma's addressing the Lord. He's saying, my dear Lord, there's no need to, continue just playing with this demon. Kindly just kill him now. Win victory for the demigods. Re-establish world peace. So in response to Brahma's words, Varaha, it said he heartily laughed. He accepted the words of Brahma, and with a glance, it is said, laden with love, the Lord just sprang up and he aimed his mace at the demon's chin. However, the battle wasn't finished then. It continued on. Hiranyaksha struck the mace down with his foot. And then the Lord's mace just slipped from his hand. But in his hand, there reappeared a Sudarshan disc. Then the demon, he was enraged. He was so angry. He was hissing like a serpent, biting his lips in rage. He's so angry. He sprang up into the air with his mace and shouted to the Lord, "You are slain!" As that mace came upon the Lord with tremendous force. But what happened? Lord Bull playfully knocked down the base with his left foot. Then he said to the demon, "Take up your weapon and try again." This really enraged Hiranyakashipu, humiliated him. Picked up the mace, roaring very loud. He attacked the Lord once again. And the Lord effortlessly just caught the mace in his hand, completely humiliated him, this demon. And of course then the demon hurled the trident, which was instantly torn to pieces by the Sudarshan mace. The demon was going crazy with anger. Then he struck his fist on the Lord's chest. And then using his mystic power, he disappeared out of sight, causing fierce winds and hailstorms and volleys of rocks to fall from the sky. Of course, the Lord was completely unaffected by these fists of the demon. And of course, he released his Sudarshan discs, which dispersed all the demon's magical feats. And then, that's right, then Hiranyaksha tried to crush him, give him the bear hug, like crush him with his powerful embrace. But every time he tried to grab him, he found the Lord was standing outside his hands. Then he began to strike the Lord with his hard fists. The Lord, he just didn't even feel anything. It was like a little love pat on the chest. Varaha, by this point, he'd enjoyed a good fight. He'd enjoyed it. But now he decided it was time to end the fight. So as Hiranyaksha was beating him on the chest, Varaha suddenly just slapped him in the root of his ear with such a powerful force that Hiranyaksha began to just wheel around. His eyeballs bulged out of their sockets. His hair scattered and he just fell on the ground dead. So we're going to get that part. We're just kind of jumping a bit forward. So it's interesting. It's that these pastimes of the Lord are very transcendental pastimes that the Lord performs for the pleasure of his devotees. Yes. And, Prabhupada mentions in this verse, which is very he mentions a lot of points in this verse, actually. I'm just looking back in this verse. And one of the points he brings out is how these demons, they've lost their intelligence. It's a symptom of someone whose intelligence is misdirected, misguided. Intelligence is such a vital gift. In all species of life, Krishna has given us our intelligence. Without intelligence, you couldn't even possibly survive. Even just to lift this cup requires some intelligence. Some people that are deranged or they have some issues, they can't even do the simplest thing. They can't even feed themselves. So it requires intelligence, and we see that in all species of life. Humans, animals, birds, aquatics, insects, reptiles, they utilize their intelligence to eat and sleep, defend, mate, make homes, enjoy their senses in various ways. Because the question we may ask is, where does this special intelligence come from? Where does it come from? Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita, that he is the intelligence of the intelligent, doesn't he? The prowess of all-powerful man, the ability in man, which means he is supplying our intelligence according to our needs and our desires. Of course, also in regards to intelligence, we may wonder, well, what is intelligence? How do you define intelligence? How do you measure it? Or why is it that some people are gifted with higher intelligence? Or why is it in spite of having, you could say, adequate intelligence, people suffer from this ability to think and act rationally, like these demons, Hiranyakashipu. So when we look into our Vedic philosophy, we find answers to all these questions. When you start studying this Vedic literature, you begin to realize that there's a lot more going on in this universe that I didn't know about. Such an incredible depth of knowledge. So in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna informs us that right back at the beginning of creation, the Lord enters into the heart of all living entities in his planetary expansion called Paramatma, Supersoul. And from there, he's supplying everyone with their intelligence according to their desires, according to their nature, according to their particular bodies, according to their desires. So what does this mean? It means that whatever we desire to do or accomplish in life, we're completely dependent on the direction of the Supreme Lord in our heart. We're simply desiring to accomplish something, and he is doing everything through the agency of material nature. I remember Ridananda Maharaj gave an example once. He was saying that, he said, just like this hand, I can say, up hand, up. It's not moving. For that hand to move up, I have to desire for it to move up, and it's the super soul, through the agency of material nature, is moving that hand up. I'm not doing it. I'm just desiring for the hand to move up, and it's Krishna's. So we don't really do anything. We're just desiring for something to happen, and Krishna, through the agency of material nature, is working. And of course, Krishna has especially given us humans free will and independence. Therefore, we have amazing scope for making choices and decisions in life, which means it's up to each individual to decide how they'll use their intelligence. Someone may use their intelligence to take up a spiritual path like all of us guys. to try and go deeper into understanding the nature of reality and understand behind the purpose, the vision, the plan of the Supreme Lord behind this wonderful creation, and learn how to act in accordance to His cosmic plan. This is the best use of intelligence. And of course, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that one doesn't need highly developed intelligence to take up the path of Bhakti Yoga. Even the simplest person who accepts the principles of Bhakti Yoga and accepts the Supreme Lord as the goal of life can achieve the highest perfectional stage of self-realization, or go back to Godhead. So this is the best use of intelligence. And this can be achieved, of course, by taking guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. The instructions of the spiritual master actually are, in essence, our real intelligence. And we learn from the Vedic literature that by such guidance, one's intelligence expands, one's consciousness expands. Then one can see things as they are. This is what you can understand. This is what intelligence can be defined, real intelligence or spiritual intelligence. When one's consciousness expands, one's intelligence expands, then one can see things as they are. One can distinguish, stand in this world and discriminate between reality and illusion, between spirit and matter, and one can act on the spiritual platform. On the other hand, one may use their intelligence to become a thief or a cheater, a smuggler or a big scammer, cheating people. Or one may use their intelligence, Prabhupada used to say, as become a big philosopher or a scientist or atheist and try and prove that God doesn't exist. Or one may become, like we see here, a great miscreant like Hiranyakashipu or Hiranyaksha, and beg from the demigods for boons of power which they can use to challenge the Lord's authority. This also takes intelligence. Yes, that also requires intelligence. However, this, according to our bhakti skill, this is the misuse of one's intelligence. Intelligence which is misdirected. Yes. If I just pick up a piece of paper on the ground, it's just a piece of paper. It has no value, does it? Just a piece of paper. But when the government assigns certain value to the paper in the form of money, it has value and it's useful. Similarly, without understanding the purpose behind this material creation and the purpose behind the human form of life, all people's efforts in life, all our efforts in life, may have very little value and very little meaning. So once again, the point is, whatever we desire to do or accomplish in life, we're completely dependent on the direction of the Supreme Lord within our hearts. And of course, in regards to higher and lower intelligence, the Bhagavad Gita teaches us about the laws of karma, the universal laws and principles which govern this universe. Yes. Which means whatever action we perform, good or bad, it's like planting a seed which will eventually grow and produce a corresponding reaction. Which means as humans, we are held responsible for our actions. Therefore, to a significant extent, we see we are makers of our own destiny. We create our own rewards through good, pious actions, which may come by being born with wonderful, special gifts, such as wealth, fame, good health, beauty, happiness, and also, as I mentioned before, higher intelligence. Someone's gifted with higher intelligence. It's a gift which comes from having good karma. And we also create our own punishments, which may come in forms of various miseries and setbacks in life. So, the function of intelligence, we learn this in the Vedic scriptures. The function of intelligence is the power of discrimination. To be able to decide the value of what we want, what we don't want, and whether we should strive to achieve it. Which means that intelligence holds the reins of the body chariot that guides the mind, distinguishing right from wrong, moral from immoral, good from bad, truth from illusion. However, we learn this from the Bhagavad Gita, if intelligence is not trained, it will give in to the mind's demands. Or we might find ourselves, you could say, suffering the consequences. So we should understand that the mind it's an amazing instrument, a brilliant creation, but if it's not brought under control by the higher intelligence, we might find ourselves thinking and acting irrationally, which can make our life so miserable. Actually, it's a modern terminology. I was reading this in the library by this, he's a famous psychiatrist who, he oversees the big politicians like the President of America and makes sure that they're mentally on track. And he brings up this point about how in the people in today's modern busy world, they suffer from this thing called disrationalia. You may have never heard this term, it's a modern term. Disrationality is the inability to think and behave rationally, despite possessing more than adequate IQ or intelligence. Just like he used the example of that President Bush. He had an incredibly high IQ, but he made so many irrational decisions in running the country of America. So what is this? Why is it that people, even having adequate IQ and intelligence, have this inability to think and behave rationally? It can be attributed to a lack of proper spiritual training and education, which comes naturally from following a bona fide spiritual path or religious path. And I know, speaking for myself, before I became a Hare Krishna devotee, I was doing a lot of stupid things, acting very irrationally, behaving very irrationally, and thinking very irrationally in my life. Because it all can be attributed to just people's total absorption and exposure to mundane materialistic propaganda, which is just pumped out and distributed through the media, which just implants all these impressions in people's subconsciousness that cause them to become bewildered by the external energy and just act completely irrationally and foolishly. Therefore, in Bhakti Yoga, we're taught the importance of, protecting and refining our consciousness and of trying to avoid all these negative influences that are just coming out through the media, through the world. Because on a global scale, we see that despite modern man's attempt to utilize his advanced rationality and intelligence to create a successful social arrangement in the world is just staggering under mountains of problems. Environmental pollution, widespread moral degradation, ecological imbalances, disease, violence, exploitation, so many wars and poverty and oppression, so many frustrated, confused and depressed people, turning to drugs and alcohol, even suicide. Prabhupada used to say these are all symptoms of a godless civilization. And this is why Krishna came. Came 500 years ago and spoke the Bhagavad Gita to guide humanity on the right path. And Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago. Give us the Yugadam, the chanting of the holy name. So the Bhagavad Gita, it tells us this. Evam param param padam. Without proper information and spiritual guidance, developing this, you could say, higher spiritual intelligence, society cannot and it will not come up to a higher platform of understanding and performance. Therefore, we see that Krishna declares in Bhagavad Gita that the intelligence guiding human society, it must come from a source superior to man's. That's why he's given us these Vedic literatures, to teach us how to purify, elevate our mind and intelligence and consciousness. Live the pure spiritual and godly life. So the whole process of self-realization, it's primarily aimed at changing our individual nature from material to spiritual. And this happens naturally when we follow this process of bhakti yoga under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Because in our bhakti school also we learn about, and Prabhupada talks about this, 3 types of intelligence. Different. He said, he gives the example sometimes of fire burning, or a thief stealing. Just like we give the example of the thief, someone hears that stealing is not right, it's bad. And if you get caught, you're going to get put in jail. So an first-class intelligent person, he hears that, he doesn't steal. Second-class intelligent person, he hears, but he goes and steals anyhow. And he gets caught, he gets punished, but he doesn't steal again. He's learned his lesson. A second-class intelligent. Third class, he gets caught, he gets put in jail, he comes out of jail, and then he steals again, he's back in jail. He keeps doing it. Third-class intelligence. Therefore, we can conclude that, first-class intelligent person, he realized that who can be more intelligent than the Supreme Lord himself, Krishna? Better I take his advice, follow his instructions, perfect my life, not have to take birth again in this material world. And of course, the less intelligent who want to find happiness separate from Krishna will be forced to be reborn again and again in this world, be forced to suffer birth, death, old age, disease repeatedly in the material world. That's why the material world sometimes is compared to be a kind of a prison house where we're taught to reform our rebellious tendencies. Then we have the fourth state of intelligence. The fourth state of intelligence is above and beyond the other 3 types. And we find it within us when we can tune the intelligence to the Supreme Lord within our heart and take direct guidance from him internally. Because this is a very advanced platform to be able to do that. Therefore, in the beginning, and of course in the intermediate stage, we take guidance from the bona fide spiritual master who is an external manifestation of the supersoul within our heart. Yes. And I'll just finish there. Because, yes. Does anyone have any questions I'd like to ask? Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Hare Krishna Balaram Gogiraj Shri Shri Goni Tai ki. Jai Gaura Premanandi.